People of God, people of God. This thing just came on recording by itself, but it's showing that I only got 20 minutes of memory on here. So I ain't gonna stay on here long. But anyway, I hope everybody's having a wonderful Sabbath. I want to share something right quick. I shared it earlier in my community section from First Chronicles from the Sefer. But I just want to go back over and piggyback on this so you guys can read it along with me. I want to read chapter 19. And what I wanted to talk about is the importance of having wise counsel, or keeping negative folk out of our ears, or the dangers of having negative counsel, you know, or listening to people who are just not wise. It can be very dangerous for, you know, businesses, people who are in positions of leadership, you know, and they don't make wise decisions. Or if you're in a position of leadership and you have people who are there to advise you, and, you know, they're negative or they're not giving you good advice, it could lead to your demise. And I want to draw this from an example from First Chronicles, where we see David. The favor of God was with David after God removed Saul and David became the leader of the children of Israel. You know, God was with him. David had enemies that came up against him, but God kept defeating his enemies and he kept advancing David. You know, so David was a very strong warrior man. He was a mighty man, and he had the favor of the Father. And it got to the point where verse 19, after David had established himself in the land, you know, he had established himself in the land. The king of Ammon had died, and his son took over. And so, because the king of Ammon showed favor to David, he wanted to send his, you know, he sent his men to show honor and respect to the king's son, right? But I want to check out. We're gonna go into this and look at how they handled David. The king handled David based off of what those who were in his ear told him. So you that have your Bible, if you don't have the Sefer, then you can follow along. First Chronicles chapter 19. I'm just gonna read this really quickly. It ain't gonna be 20 minutes because that's all I got on this here thing. But I'm gonna read this right here from the Sefer. So if you got the Sefer, you can follow along. And this names, some of these names are in its original form, so I might bear with me a little bit. But anyway, let's read here and see how they handle David's men. It says here in First Chronicles 19. Now it came to pass after this that Nachash, the king of the children of Ammon, died. Let me see something. I got my lexicon. I'm gonna go in the back of it. Says from Hebrew to common name. So I just want to see how I pronounce that. Nahash. Narkosh. Okay. Narkosh. The name of two persons, non-Israel. Look, and it even tells you how to write it. The language. See right here? This is the name that I'm pronouncing. Narkosh. This is a good book to have if you get the Sefer. But anyway, so it came to pass after this that Nachash, king of the children of Ammon, died, and his son reigned in his stead. And David said, I will show kindness unto Canaan, the son of Nachash, because his father showed kindness to me. And David sent messengers to comfort him concerning his father. So the servants of David came into the land of the children of Ammon to Canaan to comfort him. But the princes of the children of Ammon said to Chanaan, do you think that David honors your father? See, they're getting in his ear. David sent the men to comfort him. And so now he's got these advisors, these princes. So they hold high positions, and they've come to him and said, do you think that But the princes of the children of Ammon came to Chan and said, do you think that David honors your father, that he sent comforters unto you? Are not his servants come unto you for to search and to overthrow and to spy out the land? So they're basically saying, you really think he sent them in here to comfort you? They ain't come here to comfort you. They come here to spy on you and to take over this here land. Negative, bad advisors in his ear. So when he heard that from these men who are in high positions, look what he did. he did but verse 4 says, wherefore Canaan took David's servants and shaved them and cut off their garments in the midst hard by their buttocks and sent them away. So he ain't asked no questions. They took them in and cut their pants where their butt was at. Just devilish. Just wanted to embarrass them and sent them back. Now how rude and cruel was that? And this go to show you that even though he was king, he lacked wisdom, he lacked love, he lacked compassion, he didn't have no understanding. All he did was listen to these men, and he went by what they said and was cruel to these men when David was trying to honor him, and embarrassed those men, cut off their beards, cut the butt part of their pants out, and sent them back. So, verse 5, then there went certain and told David how the men were served, and he sent to meet them, for the men were greatly ashamed. And the king said, tarry at Jericho, until your beards be grown. So David was a man of understanding. He was a man of compassion. And it even says in the previous chapter, he made sure all his people, he made sure they were treated fairly and rightfully. He managed the people well. And so when the messengers came before the men got to him and told him what happened to his men and how they were treated, and their beards were shaved, their pants were cut off. So David told them, don't even come back. Just stay over there and stay in the land, stay at Jericho until your beards grow back, because it was shameful for what had happened to these men. They were ashamed. So he just told them, just stay over there, you know. That's wisdom, that's compassion, that's understanding. Verse 6, and when the children of Ammon saw that they had made themselves odious to David, they knew that they offended them, and they knew that they made themselves an enemy, right, because of what they did. So still yet, Canaan and the children of Ammon sent 1,000 talents of silver to hire them chariots and horsemen out of Aram Naharaim, and out of Aram Maacah, I think I pronounced right, Maacah, and out of Sovim. So they hired 32,000 chariots, and the king of Maacah and his people, who came and pitched before Medeba. And the children of Ammon gathered themselves together for their cities and came to battle. Now see, he done started a whole war. He knew what he did was wrong, but he had no wise person to advise him and say, you know what, let's make this right. You know, he ain't had nobody wise to advise him and say, you shouldn't have done that, or maybe we made a mistake, or you know what, let's go and make amends with David for what we did. But after he did that, he went and paid all this money and went and got all these armies to come and try to gather, because he knew that David was a mighty man. They were scared of him, you see. So they went and gathered all these other armies to help them stand their ground so they could prepare for battle. A senseless war where they did not even have to go to war, and they about to fight a losing war anyway. So now he then gathered these people, and verse 8 says, he then gathered and the children of Ammon gathered themselves together from their cities and came to battle. And when David heard of it, he sent Joab and all the host of the mighty men, and the children of Ammon came out and put the battle in array before the gate of the city, and the kings that were come by themselves in the field. Now when Joab saw that the battle was set against him before and behind, he chose out of all the choice of Yasharel and put them in array against the Aramean, and the rest of the people he delivered unto the hand of Avishai his brother, and they set themselves in array against the children of Ammon. And he said, they said, when Joab saw that the battle, they had people in front of them and also behind them, him and his brother, he split up so that his brother could take have the children of Ammon over here, and he could fight. And he said, if he told his brother, they set themselves array against the children of Ammon. So one was fighting the children of Ammon and leading the army to fight the children of Ammon, and one was fighting the battle against the Aramean. And he said, if the Aramean be too strong for me, then you should still help. You come and help me. But if the children of Ammon be too strong for you, then I'll come and help you. So basically, they was gonna have each other's back. They just devised a plan and they split up. So one could take the army at the front, one could take the army at the back. And he said to his brother, he said, be of good courage, and let us behave ourselves valiantly for our people and for the cities of Elohim, and let Yahuwah do that which is good in his sight. So Joab and the people that were with him drew nigh before the Aramean unto the battle, and they fled before them. So as they went and started fighting the people started running. They was weak, and they fled before him. And when the children of Ammon saw that the Aramean were fled, they likewise fled. So when they looked up front and see they fled, they looked and they turned around and they started running from them, because God's people were strong people. These children of Israel were strong. We some strong people. And so they fled likewise before Abishai and his brother, and entered into the city. Then Joab came to Jerusalem, and when the Aramean saw that they were put to the worse before Yasharel, they sent messengers and drew forth the Aramean that were beyond the river. And Shophak, the captain of the host of Hadarezer, went before them. And it was told David, and he gathered all Yasharel. David gathered all Israel, and passed over the Jordan, and came upon them, and set the battle in array against them. So when David had put the battle in array against the Aramean, they fought with him. But the Aramean fled before Israel, and David slew of the Aramean 7,000 men which fought in chariots, and 40,000 footmen, and killed Shophak, the captain of the host. And when the servants of Hadarezer saw that they were put to the worse before Israel, they made peace with David and became his servants. Neither would the Aramean help the children of Ammon anymore. So you see, the children of Ammon got them, not only they got themselves, they drug themselves into battle, but they went and solicited help and got the help, got their butts handed to them, all simply because of bad advice. All of this war, all of this nonsense, all of this death, over 40, how many people did David kill? It says he slew of the Aramean 7,000 men which fought in chariots, and 40,000 footmen. So that's 47,000 men that David slew that fought in chariots and that were on foot. All of these people lost their lives because this king who was in position had princes who held high positions, gave him bad advice, unwise, foolish counsel. And people lost their lives behind it. You see, this is why it is not good to take counsel from everyone. This is why it is good to study the spirit of folk. People can have qualifications and not still have the brains or not be qualified. You can have bad ambassadors holding high positions in some departments, some organizations, and these specific ambassadors could be the reason why the retention rate is piss poor. They could be the reason why there's a revolving door and nobody is paying attention to internally. You know, they keep looking at the bottom. They blame the people at the bottom. Nobody is going up the chain of command, you know, checking nobody, because people done got in high positions and comfortable places and they just enjoying themselves. You know, nobody don't want to check nobody. But meanwhile, the whole organization is suffering, you know. And this is a prime example of how having ignorant folk or wrong folk, unwise folk, in leadership positions, how dangerous and detrimental it could be. Had Cannon had the right people in place, and not only that, if he himself had a bit of wisdom, he himself would have communicated. He would have listened to what his princes said. You know, they telling him they ain't come here. They come here to spy out the land. So he just took their word. Had he had a bit of wisdom, he would have gone over to those men and sat down and talked with him to see what he could pick up and discern from their spirit. You know, hey, how are you? What'd you guys come here for? And they could have communicated. But he didn't even communicate with them. They just took them in their possession. You know, they seized them. They detained these men and embarrassed them. Shaved off their beards and cut the butt out the middle of their pants and sent them on their way. How cruel and how mean. And then they knew they was wrong for what they did. So they still had an opportunity to apologize, go back to David and say, man, we don't know what God, I'm sorry. We should have never did that. Deal with David like a man to man. But because they knew they was wrong and fearful and they had no righteousness in them, the Ruach Sadeka wasn't working in them. They went and solicited help. Come and help us. Come over here and help us. We'll pay you. David mad with us. We done did something we shouldn't have did. Now they going, these people paying these people. And these people just, as long as the money right. Some people are moved for money. But see, this is another prime example. Another thing, all money ain't good money. You see, they went and paid for help. And the help got their tails handed to them. And many of them lost their lives. So anyway, that's all I wanted to share. You know, we need to be very cautious about who we take advice from. You know, you might have some folk telling you to quit your job, don't work, because you going on to work for somebody. You trading your soul, you selling your soul for a paycheck. That's bad advice. You're not selling your soul for a paycheck because you're going to work on somebody's job. And not only that, I know folk who started on some jobs at the bottom at 7 years ago, and now they at the top, directors, you know, running stuff at the chain of their command at the top. CEOs, you know, they made it to high positions, and they started right at the bottom. And I watched them sisters grow, several of them. I watched them grow, and they friends, and they all worked under one another. They started working at the bottom, right beside each other, and now they done rose to the top, running it. And they'll be a fool to listen to somebody to tell them, oh, just because you going into a job getting a paycheck, you need to quit. People telling you to quit your job and ain't got a job to offer you. And some of the ones telling you to quit your job ain't got a pot to piss in or when to throw it out. Bad counsel. There's wisdom in the multitude of counsel, but you got to make sure you're getting wise counsel. Going to work on a job and getting a paycheck is not selling your soul, but telling lies, giving bad advice, pretending to be that you're something that you're not, deceiving folk for money, telling lies for money, that's selling your soul. Be careful who you take advice from, people. As we see right here, taking advice from the wrong folk could be very dangerous, very detrimental. Yeah, just read the word. There's nothing new under the sun, baby. Read the word for yourself. So anyway, that's just my little 2 cents. That's all I wanted to share. I hope you're had an amazing Sabbath. Continue to enjoy your Saturday. I love you. Know that it's only one of you in this whole wide world. We are the light of the world, and we can't never let our lights grow dark. We got to keep shining bright. And we also know that the blood of Jesus, Yeshua, our friend, our brother, our Savior, his blood is the only blood that has power. There's nothing can compare to it. And our God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, he's the only God that deserves honor and praise. He's the only true God, the big G God. Yeah, the one that has control over everything, the maker of heaven and earth. He still reigns, baby. And he's watching over us today. He will always be with his people. And his promise is that I'll never leave you nor forsake you. So anyway, have a blessed day. If nobody told you that they loved you today, I'm telling you, your little country bumpkin sister loves you.